the Anatomy of Superpowers.
Hello my friends, my name is Danila Grigoriev and you're on the channel of Ernst Veter System. Today I will ask questions to Ernst, but you will not see my face, only hear my voice, to maximize your concentration on the energy of Ernst. The video turned out to be very cool, so be sure to watch it to the end because the second part will be even more interesting. But before you start watching this video, you know what to do. Like this video and subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Switch on the bell to not miss notifications about new videos and about new live broadcasts, as well as express your opinion. Put comments under this video. Please be active and support the movement by pushing the video forward. Well, my friends, let's go.
Since ancient times, people have been attracted by superpowers. For many years, it was believed that this is either an artifice or something accessible only to a selected few. Our project has been destroying these illusions for many years. Ernst Veter is a man with completely extraordinary abilities. He received permission to bring some practices to the masses. And today we will talk to him about it. Ernst will tell about the history of superpowers, about the clans that keep ancient knowledge, about the connection between special services and superpowers, about the egregores of abilities, about their future, and of course about the fees that are paid for them.
Ernst, what are superpowers?
Superpowers, in my opinion, are the abilities to transform the energy of mind into some actions that, in principle, an ordinary person cannot perform, and which at the moment cannot be even confirmed by such a science as physics. Physics denies the possibility of superpowers, but very many people at the moment are already proving that many superpowers wake up at such a level that they may become common among ordinary people, and almost everyone with due effort can master superpowers.
But why are there so few people with superpowers?
In reality, many people try to engage in superpowers. The fact is that many people are beginning to understand superpowers. But superpowers, in the first place, are not given to the lazy, non-purposeful people who cannot set a goal and go for it. The egregore is alive. The egregore of superpowers is actually alive. It chooses people for whom superpowers will be available. That is, not all people willing to practice superpowers will be able to perform them at the proper level in order to show something, to demonstrate abilities. Actually, there are many factors and criteria here, which we will discuss today if you ask me about. But at the moment, I would say that superpowers are available to everyone and not to everyone at the same time. If a person is engaged with due persistence and managed to reconfigure his consciousness, if a person has managed to tune his mind and put energy in a right way, then he succeeds. Let it be even a minimal superpower, but nevertheless it is something that ordinary people cannot explain. Why there are few of them? Yes, the fact is that we just have not yet come to the understanding that superpowers are what we have always had, but we forgot about it. We lost it centuries ago, and now the Age of Awakening begins. We can confidently speak about the Age of Awakening, because we are beginning to change our consciousness. Notice how the development of mankind has changed over the past 100 years. This means that we are now facing some very important event. And I believe that this transformation of consciousness is impossible without superpowers. That is, in the future, superpowers will be the same common ability as walking, talking, taking something with your hands, and so on. I think that in 100 to 200 years, superpowers will even cease to be called superpowers because they will become ordinary abilities. And such a smart word as SIDA will no longer be something mysterious and something magical. But let's wait and see.
How many people on our planet today, in your opinion, have superpowers?
It's hard to say, but I guess there's about 10,000 people. This is an incredibly small number compared to the world's population. Personally, I know about 50 people who, to one degree or another, have superpowers. But for some people, superpowers include only telekinesis or only levitation. And others consider superpowers as the ability to control time, to move in time, the ability to control thinking. As well as telepathy, it is also a superpower. One cannot consider hypnosis as superpower, but telepathy can already be considered as such. And therefore, it is an important point in the concept of superpowers. It depends on the meaning we give it. What does it mean for a person to have a superpower? For example, you might think that superpower is the ability to jump 2 meters high, but this can be trained through physical exercises. It is different from the ability to hang and freeze in the air for 20-30 seconds, soar in the air, to do the so-called levitation. At the moment, in my opinion, and according to my data, it is about 10,000 people with these abilities.
Ernst, but 10,000 people are still quite a lot. Why doesn't official science believe in superpowers?
This is a good question. In fact, many people from the governing bodies of the state, from the special structures, know about superpowers. However, not everyone is ready to accept this fact. Not everyone is ready to take it for some specific purpose. One time I was asked to teach at a certain school of superpowers. I will not say the name of this school. Well, I will say that they train certain people there to perform certain tasks. Let's say everything was confidential, and the people who were allowed to know, they will understand, and the ones who were not, will not. I had an ordinary task to teach how to add a thought into someone's mind and how to ignite with a glance. That is, there were 2 tasks, sharing of thoughts and ignition with a glance. That is, pyrokinesis and telepathy. There is still such a moment that we must clearly understand that superpowers are not given to everyone. As I said earlier, not everyone can learn them. This is not some kind of sport that if you train every day, you will succeed. That is, an incredibly long time can be spent on the development of superpowers, but if the egregore does not let you into it, or rather the keeper of the egregore does not let you into it, then nothing will work. Superpowers are the additional energies that are given to us through certain keys. Therefore, the special services are not yet ready to spend huge amounts of money to train something that may not work. You see, if, for example, the same secret services need some kind of equipment that works with 100% probability, regardless of the weather, regardless of the state of the person, they will not resort to superpowers, because this does not always work. This requires a fairly long-term attitude, and very often if you use it against someone, the egregore simply disconnects you from this energy. This is such a simple scheme, so at the moment we have not yet reached the absolute control of this energy. There is something above us that controls us. Therefore, I think that in the next couple of years, at least until we completely take this under our control, we cannot say that some special services or some state structures will use superpowers for their own purposes.
Ernst, what do you think? Is there any state or interstate doctrine that dictates the hiding of superpowers from the broad masses?
No, there is no such. There are certain circles that exist that don't want to reveal what's really possible. But at the moment we live in the era of Web 2.0, when anyone can post any information on the internet. And it will take a while until this information is filtered or removed. People will still have time to see it. I don't think there is any definite obstacle for people. As I said, so long as it does not draw serious attention, we will see what happens. Perhaps we will be able to make such a school that will make our consciousness work, regardless of any state of our body, regardless of the egregor's influences. Therefore, everything is in our hands and everything will depend on how we work together. But at the moment, I do not see anything dangerous from the government side that would forbid us to work with superpowers, to develop ourselves and other people.
Another final question about the special services, which is asked quite often. What is the reason that the secret services do not immediately recruit a person who has mastered some ability? What do you think?
This is a twofold question. That is, why recruit him? If he is recruited to teach, this is one thing. If he is recruited to perform any duties, some tasks, will he agree? Very often the state does not work according to ethical practices, but according to very dirty schemes, and those people who have developed some ability will not just agree to be involved in this. As a rule, people who are trained in superpowers, people who have learned superpowers, who have developed this in themselves, these are all bright and kind people who bring light and purity to this world. And to work for some kind of system that forces you to perform dirty tasks, I think a person will not go for it. Because not everything is measured by money, not everything is measured by some kind of well-being in this world. There is a soul that must develop. There are our spiritual growth levels in which we become higher and higher with each life. This is the goal of enlightened people. And poorly enlightened people or not enlightened people, we may say so, they usually do not achieve anything in superpowers. That is, if you have some dirty thought in your head in advance, I think that nothing will work out for you. Well, of course, the special services are trying to recruit. Trying. It's not a secret. But that time has passed, the time of the so-called Iron Curtain and the time of the Gulag, when one could lock you up in some government office and force you to do something. Now we are free to choose, do we want to work or not? Perhaps in some communist countries, like North Korea, people may be forced, but mostly this time has passed, has sunk into oblivion. A person is free to choose now. And when I realize that I have a choice, either I will teach or I will not teach, and at the same time have any prohibitions, I just packed my bag and left for another country. That is, at the moment it has become much easier, and I think that a person no longer stands in such a rigid framework. When he refuses, and certain prohibitions are immediately introduced in his life, and his life may end. Roughly speaking, it may dry him up. For example, it happened with some artists, with some teachers who said something inappropriate and then their life ended in oblivion because they were locked. Now there is no such thing, and now a person is free to change the country. He is free to change the continent. Therefore, I think if a person has gray matter in his head at the proper level, he will always find himself in another country, if in his own country he is not allowed to live normally.
In other words, to summarize, a person who wants to master superpowers in Russia or in America should not be afraid of being immediately taken by some special services on a whim. Did I understand correctly?
Let's just say, if he demonstrates abilities on national television every day, if he shows some incredible power, the special services may become interested in him, but rather in the sense of protecting this person from civilians. Well, imagine a person who knows how to ignite objects at a distance without touching them and very quickly. I think pyrokinesis is actually a very dangerous siddha. And here we are faced with a dilemma. Why should a person be imprisoned? Why should he be locked up or removed from society? In principle, anyone can take a bottle of gasoline, matches, and go and fire up anything if he wants. A person who works correctly with pyrokinesis can perform it from a distance, but at the same time he commits a crime. That is, he should already have some kind of social responsibility, be aware of what he is doing and what the consequences will be. After all, sooner or later, those people who commit some kind of superpowers are put on record. They are watched in a stricter manner than ordinary people, but they are watched only if something happens. I think that now it is not a secret for anyone that now you can be followed in hindsight. If something happened, then the special services rewind all telephone conversations, all correspondence, and absolutely everything, and start looking for what happened 2 to 3, 4 months ago. That is, there are no longer those CIA agents who are sitting and listening to your telephone conversation. No. Now it is happening in reverse mode and rewind mode. If something happened, they rewind the system and start checking. Moreover, the robots check and see that there were some specific search queries, there were some certain thoughts of a person which he posted in digital form somewhere. That is, digital footprints always remain. Then this person is already really taken under supervision. Until that moment, nothing happens, nobody really cares.
Yes, I understand you, Ernst. Okay, let's go back to the topic of superpowers and talk a little about the history of superpowers. Please tell us, when did the first superpowers appear in humanity?
Do you mean the first superpowers as super abilities or superpowers as siddhas? Because the first superpowers that mankind knows happened 2,000 years ago with a man named Jesus, whom many consider not as a man, but in certain religions as God, in other religions as a prophet. He demonstrated the resurrection siddha, demonstrated the water walking siddha, and then he demonstrated the siddha of awakening after death, demonstrated the levitation siddha, that is, he had a lot of siddhas. But let us look at it without diving into religion, without trying to get to the bottom of whether it did take place or not, because no one remembers what was actually written in the Bible. It was written by people 300 years after the death of Jesus. So the first really documented data about siddhas appeared 500 years ago. That is, the first superpowers existed 500 years ago. It is known to all people who practice superpowers, to those people who belong to certain clans, to certain secret societies. Before that, maybe there were also some superpowers, but perhaps they were very small or perhaps they were not documented.
After all, there are many references from Indian sources, from Chinese sources about superpowers dated 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago.
There are certain references to yogis, but we cannot boldly assert what really happened. You know, there is such an expression, paper will endure everything. And you can write anything you want, but what we are talking about, what is reliably known in our clans, is a really official data that have been confirmed and which has become the primary source of information. That is, people with super abilities may have existed before, but there is a high probability that they, for example, meditated for a very long time, and then unconsciously entered one of the egregores and certain things happened to them. They could start levitating, for example. A person could dissolve and gather in atoms in another place, the so-called teleportation. But was it deliberate? Was it more precisely? Was it done in such a way that the person made an effort, learned how to do it, and began to do it? Before those things were made by accident. We cannot say for sure, but it may have happened before. What I'm talking about happened 500 years ago. About 500 years ago, there is the mention of the first masters from whom our clans originated. But perhaps there was something earlier.
Today there is a version that Atlanteans or Lemurians, in other words, the previous civilizations had these same superpowers and that they come from them. Do you think this is true or not?
About this, I dare not assert anything, because I did not delve deeply into this topic. Maybe, I can't say it comes from them. We cannot say that superpowers come from someone. It is not a DNA structure that can be changed over time. It may have been some kind of entrances to the egregore. The egregore of superpowers existed much earlier than the beginning of our civilization, before the beginning of the first civilization on Earth, and will exist after us. The question is who was admitted to it. I heard that, for example, many huge monoliths, extensions of the Egyptian pyramids, weighed more than 100 tons, which could not be processed in any way with the instruments of the time of these pyramids' construction. That is, there is also an opinion that some kind of telekinesis was used and some other superpowers, but we cannot assert anything here. Perhaps someone penetrated this egregore and found out how to work with it, but again, the further from the point of the event, the more difficult it is to assert. And at present moment, we cannot even say anything about the superpowers of Jesus, because no one does know whether they really were performed or not. You need to document something at the moment it happens. Fortunately, now we have video cameras, the internet. We can film anything, post it, and perhaps our great-great-great-grandchildren will look and say, this is the direct evidence, and not just paper story. Therefore, we are happy that we are living in our time, when it is possible to document everything at once.
Ernst, I know that, and you are talking about it yourself, that you are a member of a certain clan of guardians. Are there any other similar clans today on our planet?
At the moment, there are 15 clans scattered all over the planet, in different countries. Some are connected by continents, some are located in only one country. Not everyone is allowed to be a member of these societies they check. And I will tell you right away that such secret societies as Masonic are not much connected with superpowers. That is, those societies which do not shine in any news, they do not flash in any internet headlines. It's hard to join them. You don't join them, you get invited into them. When a person can really demonstrate something, they get in touch with him. An invitation is sent to him, they begin to talk to him. And it is almost impossible to get there, to start studying there by yourself. Therefore, this is a big difference. For comparison, it is quite easy to enter a Masonic clan in a Masonic lodge. You need to be at a certain social level to make some donations, and in principle you are already there. But in another case, you will not be allowed in so easily. You will not be allowed in if you do not make any significant contribution to the development of the idea. That is, money is not even so important here. What you do is much more important here. And then they look even more at how serious you are and how seriously you are aimed at further membership in this clan. That is, if you just came, listened, and left, and did not constantly visit the training camp, do not participate in the life of this clan, then you are simply slowly expelled from it and forgotten. But of course, there are people who are really very important, who even without doing anything are constantly in the clan. But it is better not to talk about it in public, because then these people may get angry, and then everyone will feel bad. Therefore, if a person begins to achieve certain heights, these people will contact him themselves, believe me.
I will ask a rather childish question. Is your clan the coolest and the most ancient of these 15 mentioned or not?
No, of course not. It is not at all ancient and in terms of coolness. I do not know how coolness is measured. I saw people in our clan who teleport like in the teleport movie. Only a little slower. The dissolution and reconnection occur a little longer in time, and we are not considered the coolest clan. Yes, probably there is no scale that determines the coolness. Not all clans can admit you in even if you have something. Firstly, the very idea of secrecy, that is, whether you will be able to keep information in secret and will not disseminate it. Whether there are any conflicts of interest between members of clans. That is, if a budding newcomer has some conflicts with one of the participants who is at the higher level, the newcomer may simply be excluded. About coolness, I don't know how coolness is measured, to be honest.
And yet now superpowers are put out to the public. Why is this happening exactly today? What do you think?
You know, probably it is connected with the passage of time. We live in a time when many boundaries and prohibitions are breaking. Let's even consider the simplest example. 200 years ago, even 100 years ago, you could have been arrested for being gay, put in jail. Now, if you are gay, then you are just not cool. There is no hype for us. Therefore, the consciousness of people somehow changes. Perhaps this is the idea of the egregore. Perhaps, I will not argue, but it may be the idea of the egregore to go out to the public masses in order to somehow put people on the right path of development. Because the egregore itself is very strong. And when you get under its influence, you change your sense of the world, your values change. You start looking at life in a completely different way. You do not bother so much about everyday problems. You understand that there is something higher, something above you. And this is something so powerful, so strong, compared to which your problems become so small. If you feel the energy from above, then you simply stop paying attention to them. You understand that it is simply stupid to spend your life on solving these small problems, to somehow conflict with anyone. I think you understood me what I wanted to say. Why now? Difficult to answer. Probably, after all, we are approaching a certain threshold that will force us to make a choice of a next step. Either we go with spiritual development, or we are degrading in our spiritual life and turn into some kind of animal consumers, you know. I think now we are exactly on this crossroad, and everyone will make a choice for himself what he needs. Does he want to be attracted to dirty places? Or does he want to become enlightened and live according to more correct laws for himself, according to spiritual laws? I think this led to the occasion that now superpowers have started to appear more and more in our lives.